There we are. Hello again, everybody. This is Derek, and I am coming back at you with a special edition of my Wargaming Weekly. I say special edition because normally I only do this once a week, but I wanted to do a second one, mainly because I just had a lot of information that I wanted to get off my chest. But also, since I just had a couple hours where I was going to be painting on these Germans, and they're the same figures that I was painting on in the last Wargaming Weekly, just so you can see the progress. I hope everybody's having a good Sunday. You know, if you're out there in the internet world, I hope you guys are enjoying or if you maybe have a day off, or if you're working and you're listening at work, that's fine too. Couple of things I wanted to put out is I've got some videos that I'm planning on recording this afternoon, right? So I won't be doing it live because I'll be doing a lot of editing on those videos. But one of them is, or one or two of them, is the Meg boot camp continuation. I still need to do some more recording for those. I'm just now hitting chapter 8, and the real game, or I should say the real game mechanics, don't really start until you hit 9, right? Chapter 9, that is. Now, I've been holding these popsicle sticks, and I've been holding the Russian popsicle sticks, and it's actually starting to make my left index finger hurt. I mean, really. Like, I'll be laying in the bed trying to go to sleep, and my right where this rests against my index finger, I need like a thimble or something, right? Or a big rubber pad, or maybe a Band-Aid or something to pad it, because I'm gripping this pretty tight and it's cutting into my finger, and it's really one or two popsicle sticks, one or two nights or whatever, no big deal. But when I'm doing this many figures and that many figures concurrently, just constantly, it is starting to hurt my fingers. And this is the first time this has ever happened. Well, also, this is the first time I've painted this many figures all at one time. I only like to do maybe 4, like less than 100 at a time. And I'm doing almost 300 right now. Well, they're not the same because some are 15s and some are 28s. What I'm doing right now, just so you know, is I'm using chocolate brown, and I'm painting the inside of the shields. I don't need to do that. I could just leave it be, because of the way I primed it, and then I went over and base coated it with a burnt umber. So the shields are already pretty dark brown on the inside. But, so I'm not painting the inside of the shields. What I'm doing is, I'm doing a touch-up of any other colors, like flesh or a pant or a jacket that might have spilled over onto the shield when I was doing painting. So I'm going in and I'm correcting all those overpaints. That's really all I'm doing right now. Okay, starting today, the post office, if you're here in the US, you might know this, you might not know this, but the post office has just changed its rates in a big way. I'm going to do a video. This is what I was saying. I've got a bunch of videos scheduled, and this is another one of them where I talk about the postage rate changes. Mainly as a store update for my eBay store. Because that's really where it impacts me. They're getting rid of first class mail. It's now ground select advantage or some such nonsense like that. So they've had a big decision. They made a big change in that the rates are not that much different than first class. Not much. Unless you start getting really heavy, right? Like over a pound. Because then you wouldn't have been able to use first class anyway. You would only have been able to use parcel or priority. And now you're getting first class speed with parcel prices. So it's kind of a good thing, right? But then on the flip side, if it is lightweight, like under a pound, it's actually more expensive. So it's really good for the heavy stuff. And I don't really ship a whole lot of heavy stuff. I'm going to be honest. I ship mostly under a pound usually. A box of miniatures or a painted army or something like that. And it usually comes out to under a pound. So this parcel select will hurt my customers a little bit, I think. Because I went in and I grabbed two, because on eBay, they want you to go in and update all of your listings today so that you'll be compliant with the shipping, right? Okay. So I went and updated two items just because I wanted to see what the differences were. And I updated a Napoleonic unit, which is almost a full pound. And it was actually a $3 savings for the customer. Which at first I was like, oh, this is going to be great. But then I went to a individual miniature that only weighs like 3 ounces. And it was a $3 increase. So it could go either way is what I'm trying to say. But I'm going to do a video tonight when I do my store update, when I talk about my inventory and supplies and boxes and what I'm working on, what I've completed and stuff like that. Because I do that weekly, usually on a Sunday night, and then I upload it and it goes live on Monday. I do that every week, or at least I try to do it every week. Sometimes I will miss it. One time I did it on a Tuesday just because I forgot, and I was like, what the hell? Well, I'm missing something. And I went and checked, and I was like, oh crap, I didn't even upload this video. So yeah, I try to stay on top of that. I make mistakes, just like everyone else. But when I record mine tonight, I'll be sure to include the postage changes. It is still cheaper than UPS and FedEx. Just FYI. And the post office probably realized that their rates were competitively too low in certain areas and too high in others, and that's why they've switched. I just figured that because it was government funded, that you would it wouldn't be as much as a privately owned. But how much of our taxes really go to the post office? Not a whole lot, I wouldn't think. I think they get most of their funding through sales. Postage, boxes, insurance, tracking. I've only got a couple of colors left on this entire group. I'm touching up the shields on the insides. The outsides, I slept on it, but I still haven't really come up with a plan. I thought I had ordered some Celtic Shield decals. I double checked my order, and I don't have it on my list. I've got Carthaginians, Numidians. I got some 100 Years War flags. But I thought I ordered some Celtic decals. So I use little big men when it comes to shield decals, and they don't have Celtic decals for Old Glory. Because they take all their decals and they break them down by manufacturer, like what shields they would be being applied to, like Essex or Forged in Battle, which is now on the Little Big Men website, or Old Glory, or Zeiston, or basically any of those. And so I looked at the Old Glory decals, and they don't have any. So I kind of branched. I know I personally have some in my tub over there. So I was thinking to myself, well, if I have them, how come they're not for sale? Well, because when I ordered them, like a year ago, I didn't order Old Glory decals. I ordered Zeiston, I think. I'll have to look at them. But yeah, I think they're Zeiston. I don't know if they're going to fit. I think they will. I do have a few Zeiston models, but not in the numbers like I've got Old Glory. I would say 99% of these models are Old Glory. Because I ordered German warriors in bulk. I think I ordered like 9 bags of them when I ordered. Um, yeah, so it wound up being almost 200 Germans. But then I got a few other packs of Germans in here as well. Actually, some Gauls. The well, one of them is the javelins. Actually, that's probably 2 packs of javelin. No, it might be just 1 pack. And then the nobles are Gauls in male. Um, now, so looking at the Zeiston decal sheet, I think there's only about 40 decals on there, somewhere in that neighborhood. And so there's well over 40 models here, obviously. So I was thinking, should I apply them or wait till I do a Gaelic army? Well, I'm not going to do a Gaelic army. Well, let me lie about that. I am going to do a Gaelic army, but most of the warriors in that Gaelic army are going to be these Germans. So these Germans are going to be dual purpose. They're going to be Gaelic and they're going to be Germans. Um, Lowland Gaelic. There is such a thing as a Highland Gaelic, but I'm not really doing those. I'm doing Lowland. Or I'm not really doing Lowland. I think the Lowland Gaelic are the troops that would be going up against Caesar. But then again, the Germans would be too, like Teutoburg Forest and all that. I thought were Germans. So yeah, but they're all pretty much Celtic. I also noticed there was a couple of other brands of Celtic decals. Um, or maybe one other. Maybe there's only two: Zeiston and Forged in Battle, I think. And uh, so I've been thinking about ordering those, but I've decided I'm not going to do it because the Germans didn't really do the whole shield design idea. They were more of a wood brown wicker shields and wood and just non-heraldry kind of deal. It's the Gaelic that really started with all that stuff. So, the nobles, the unit, I got 2 units of nobles that I'm doing. The 2 units of nobles, I think I'm going to use the decals on them. It'll really make those units stand out as being like um, upper echelon or part of the nobility. And then everybody else is just a warrior. And they would have just basic colored shields, because I am going to color a few of them. Now, I was thinking about doing unit commanders, because every one of my units has like a standard, a musician, and a unit commander. That's a lie. It's not all of them, but about 9 out of 10, maybe 8. But some have unit commanders, some have musicians, some have standard bearers, because I kind of distributed them amongst the 10 warrior groups. And 2 warrior and 2 nobles. So really there's 12 units that I put 8 of each of these. I kind of split them up, and so some might have a musician and a commander, and some might have a standard bearer and a commander. But they're all going to have a commander, because I robbed from Peter to pay Paul. Basically, I took a Gaelic warrior in male. So there's a guarantee that every unit is going to have one guy in male. Also, this guy right here, you can't really see. I don't think the focus will work. But this guy right there is a German I got from a different set. I don't remember what set I got him from, but I have all my other Germans that are already painted look just like him, right? With these long spears. And looking at the army list, none of the Germans had long spears. So I have to kind of what I'll have to do is distribute all the long spears into all the other units to kind of make it look like the unit itself is not a long spear unit. There's just a random dude in the unit with a long spear. But if I make the whole unit long spears, then people are going to think that the unit is long spears. Which is okay if there are, because most of the games I play are going to be friendly games anyway, and I can just say, hey, those guys don't have long spears. And the people I play with would be totally cool with that, because we're all adults. We're not children that go to tournaments and whine about what my opponent's figures are on the table. I mean, if I went to a tournament and a guy had a ballista on the table and he said it was an elephant, I would have a problem with that. Right? So I get that. I'm just saying we don't do that. We don't do the tournament game where we're complaining about proxying, Okay. So what I think I'm going to, and this is the other thing I was thinking of, because this is a big deal for me. Because all the guys in all the sticks here are all randomized clothing. It's randomized Germanic clothing, so it's a lot of earth tones. And the shields can all be just brown if I wanted to do that, but I don't. I don't want to be so generic. So I was wondering if I should take each unit and give it its own shield design. Like everybody in this unit has a green shield, everybody in this unit has a red shield, everybody in this unit has a yellow shield, etc. Or should I have a mixture in every unit? And I think I should have a mixture in every unit because I want it to make it look like they're disorganized, right? And not like the Romans where they're all drilled and professional. Also, I've changed my mind on the generals. I've done 3 Roman generals, and they're all on round 40 millimeter bases. I've decided to go to squares. A couple of reasons. Squares fit better when attaching a general to a unit. Also, it makes it easier for me to put multiple figures on a general base. And I want to have different figures, different numbers of figures on bases. It is suggested in the rules that you do that to represent different quality generals. The more figures, the higher the quality. I don't think I'm going to worry about that, but I do want my army general to have more figures than my subordinate generals. Right? I'm thinking if my subordinates only have 1 figure, which is all you need to represent a general, the army general would only need 2 figures, right? Because then it would stand out. But I think I wanted to put 3 figures on an army. And then 2 figures on some subordinates and 1 figure on the majority of the subordinates. And that way, if I ever needed to like represent an ally, or if I needed to represent like a talented subordinate, I could say, see that guy over there with the 2 figures? He's the man. And the guy with the 3 figures, he's the army general. And the guys with 1 are like your normal subordinate generals. Or I could say, he's an ally. Check that guy out. I also thought that because I'm not only doing Celts and Germans out of the same army, I mean, there's some other units that need to be made to bring the I'm sorry, not the Celts, to bring the Gaelic into compliance. You know, I can't just pick up the entire German army and say, "Oh, by the way, it's Gaelic." No, because because there are some differences, like the Solduri or the Gestati for the lowland Gaelics. I don't have any of those painted. Now, these nobles, they could easily be Soldati. Solduri, I'm sorry, Solduri, not Soldati. Solduri are basically professional warriors as part of the tribes. They're the best warriors. Where the Gestati are like your naked fanatics. Um, but if you have any fanatic units in your army, your army general has to be attached to that unit. And that's obviously according to a point-based army that you're purchasing and putting on the table. If I'm designing a scenario, I can violate whatever rule I want. So I could say in this battle, these fanatics were over here, but Vercingetorix was not at that spot. He was, well, on the other side of the battlefield. So historically, they're not together. But what I am trying to do is comply with the army list as close as I can while understanding that I'm not complying with the army lists. And I can tell you that because I made 10 warrior units with 6 bases. And according to the army list, you can only have 56 bases or something? 52 bases? Something. Not 60. So I realized it was like, I could have 9 units, not 10. So I'm going to have like an extra unit, but that's okay. Plus I've got some leftover miniatures. That I think I might put up on the store. Put them in a Ziploc, count them up, and say, hey, look at this, a unit. 15 millimeter, Old Glory. Early German warriors. Okay, so just so you know, I'm going to be painting these shields random colors. And then at some point in the future, after I've already washed them and based them and highlighted them and all that stuff, at some point in the future, I'll pull the figures down and then I'll put little heraldic symbols or designs or patterns on the shields. A lot of times when I paint miniatures, I do a get it on the table and then come back later and do a, okay, now hit up all the, tweak it, get all the extras. A lot, and usually like in my Napoleonic figures and stuff like that, I'll paint them so that they look good on the table at arm's length. And then I'll go back later and I'll paint like brass buttons and belt buckles and stuff like that. That will not be in my initial paint job. Almost never. Same thing with World War II. Less so, though, on World War II because there's not really a whole lot of minor details like that I need to go back in and touch up. Not on 15 millimeter. Maybe on 28s. Things like mustaches and maybe even eyes. On 15 millimeter figures, I don't bother with eyes. Even when I go back in and I touch them up to put all the details on, I still don't do eyeballs. If you do a black eye socket or a very dark eye socket, it looks great. You don't have to You don't have to put like an iris on there. That's ridiculous on a 15 millimeter. And if you're doing that, then, in my opinion, if you're doing that, you're not a wargamer. You're a museum paintist. Or let me say, if you're let me back up on that. If you're doing that, then you're only painting one army. But when I'm painting 8 armies, I'm not going through and painting eyeballs. When I'm painting a German division worth of figures, they're not getting any eyeballs. No matter how much you want me to. I've got a quick way to do eyeballs on the larger figures that actually is super easy to do. I think I did a video on it. I might not have, now that I'm thinking. I think I attached it to another video, like, hey, this, we're painting some Napoleonic figures. Blah, 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 jacket, pants, blah, blah, blah. And this is how you do eyes. And then just went through it like super quick. I think that might be the case. But I can tell you right now how easy it is to do eyes. You take your white, and I don't use white. I would use like a beige or like a beige color or an ivory or something just a little bit off-white. And I would put a dot in the eye socket. It'd be big and white, and it will look ridiculous like a cartoon. And it's not hard to do. You just go pop, pop. Now, once you do that, let that dry. And you could do this on your entire army all at one time. Just a simple dot right in the eye socket. Dot, 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 all across your army. And then once it's dry, well, if you're doing it, okay, hold on, what's going on here? Yeah, okay, let me add some water. I think it's drying up. Boop. Once you get all those, if you're doing an army, you don't really have to wait till it dries, because by the time you get to the last figure, the first figure should be dry. One of those deals. And then you can take either a very like fine tip black pen. I use a felt tip, ultra fine, very fine, or whatever. Or you can use a paintbrush, but just make sure you got a really fine tip on it. Maybe a 10-0 or a 20-0. Okay, that one drop of water just wasn't enough, it looks like. Here we go. And then you just take a vertical line, like a cat, straight up and down, across the white dot. Right? It's going to look like a dragon eye at that point. Right? You're going to have a big red. Well, red if you're like Bloodshot. No, you're going to have a big white dot and then a straight up and down black line. Super easy, no thinking necessary. And if you go over onto the face or whatever, that's perfectly fine. Don't worry about it. Because the next step is returning to flesh. So whatever flesh color you painted your face, you put 2 horizontal lines, one below and one above that white dot, bringing it into line with your brow and the underside of your eyeball. So basically you follow the eyelids. Changing that ugly, cartoony, round circle. Okay, what's going on here? Converting that ugly, cartoony, round circle into an eyeball shape with the flesh above and below it. There we go. And then you'd be done. It's that simple. And then at that point, I would apply a flesh wash to darken the areas around the eye. And basically giving it eyeshadow. Like makeup. And your eyes will look great. You can try it. I give you permission. So one of these days, I'll take a figure and actually do that technique for you. But that's the way I paint eyes. I've been using it forever. It'll make your eye look realistic and not cartoony. It won't be, because if you go in and try to fit your white inside the eye socket and then try to put a dot where the iris is and try to get it to look good, you're going to fail. But if you just plan to fail, like I'm going to just do a dot and I'm going to just do a line and then I'll go in and touch it up with flesh. It'll be so much easier. But again, I'm not doing that on 15 millimeter. It'll work. Like on a special character like a Caesar or an Alexander, I might do it. But just on a 275 warriors, I don't think so. Okay, I've got almost all of the insides of the shields. Then we can move on to, I got 2 more colors. I've got the metallic, which is going last. And then I've got wood shafts, which will be your javelins and your spears. And then I'll put some thought into doing these shields. The nobles will probably have to be painted white so that the little big men's shields will work on them. I thought about painting all the shields white and then going back with their colors. But what that'll do is it'll make the reds and the yellows bright. And I don't want that. I want this army to be very subdued. So I'm gonna leave it brown and just paint the yellows and the reds on top of the brown. And as you probably already know, yellows and reds don't like going on brown or black or any dark color. That's why if you're painting, a majority of your army is red or yellow, paint it white first, or at least the item that you're painting, paint white first, and then red and yellow will stick to it a lot better. Okay, so that's two of the videos, right? The store news and the Meg boot camp video. But I think I've got a couple other videos I want to record and upload. One of them being just a base difference. I kind of want to show off uh, a comparison between bases, either metal or wood or plastic. I think I want to do that, and specifically I want to do that because I've got some Rubicon round bases. I got them in for bolt action because I do a lot of miniatures that are not games. I was going to say Games Workshop. I get a lot of miniatures that are not Warlord games, like West Wind, or Old Glory, or whatever. And I want to use them for bolt action. And so, what I have been doing in the past is using 1-inch fender washers. One reason why I do that is because they got some weight to them, and when you put a metal miniature on a fender washer, it actually will cover. Whoops. Okay, that's good. What it'll do is it'll actually cover the hole in the middle of the fender washer, but it'll also balance it so it won't be so top heavy, which is a problem you'll have with metal miniatures on a plastic base. But I do also plastic World War II, or, just looking at differences, alternatives. And then once I get that base video done, then I can start posting those bases on the store, because I held off posting them because I didn't want to sell them if I didn't want to sell them before I had had a chance to do the video. Wow, that guy really needed to be fixed. Okay, but he's good now. Whoa. Okay, they're good. So yeah, I'm gonna randomize their shield colors uh, in the units, except for the nobles, which I'm gonna use decals. Okay, last but not least. Okay, these guys are actually okay, except for him. Plus, I want to use a little bit of brass or bronze, I should say, on some of these shins. I think there should be bronze on some of these helmets. So right now I'm just doing a little bit of touch up, final details or whatever at this level. Remember, I'm not painting them to 100%. I'm painting them to the table, which is about 80%. I don't think I'm going to be able to base them today, or at least not on camera, because when I apply the wash, you got to let that dry, and then I go back over with a dull coat. And so by the time all that dries, it'll be tonight. Okay, got those browns done. And I can take this brown and put it over here. All right. We're not doing the chainmail silver yet. We are going to use Model Master wood for the wood shafts because it's a very light color and it'll make the spears stand out quite a bit. Okay. Going to take a short break for my index finger right here just to give it a little bit of a rest. And while I do that, I'm going to go grab my decals. And I'll be back in 2 seconds. Not even that. Okay. Gaelic German. We got like Gaelic armored calf. Okay, there's some blue moon. Estati. Okay. Archers and kinds of stuff. Where are the decals? Ah, there they are. And they say right on them, to fit Zeiston miniatures. Which is okay. All right, I was double checking. They do have these round shields with the center boss and center spine on them. Unfortunately, my cavalry are round with a center boss only, no spine. They're not like Roman shields. None of these are. Yeah, so the Cav is not going to be able to have any decals on them. Which is fine. Because I'm sure there are other round shields in here that okay, there's all the Cav. Okay. So let's go to my nobles. They're all carrying oval shields. These guys have the hex shields. Now, there are a couple of hexes, but they are way too big for those hexes. Now, there are some ovals here. They're not the right ones. They're not going to work. Because those guys are not Zeistons. Those are Old Glory. What about these guys? Nope. Okay, so I'm going to have to hand paint my nobles. I'm pulling all the ones with all the chainmail, putting them over here. There should be 4 sticks. That's 16. And there should be 28. So 16, 24, there should be 4 more. And that's probably these 4 right there. Probably. Can be. It's no big deal. Okay. So my javelinman shields are circles with a boss in the middle. That's not going to work. My warriors. Yep, these decals aren't going to work at all. Well, crap. Well, it does say fits Zeiston miniatures. And these are not Zeiston. So that tells me that I'm going to have to paint all their shields. Which actually is going to be a lot easier than applying decals. The decals is actually a pain in the butt. But I was ready to do it. Okay, so we're going to do some spear shafts. Standard poles. Javelins. All with wood. Okay. There we go. Now, right now, these guys look extremely dark, right? I mean, they really do. But that's partially because they're on these dark brown popsicle sticks. Once you pluck them all off their popsicle sticks and start putting them on bases and then putting grass underneath them and everything, they're going to look a lot different. Yeah, so effectively you've got 2 colors to do and then all the shields. And the shields are going to be mostly darker colors. Like dark green, dark red, dark blue. I don't know if there should be any purple. I don't think that's a thing. But I will do some research. Okay. My man. Okay, here we go. All right, that works. Let's put the right glasses back on so I can see what I'm doing. This brush might not be the one I want to use. It's got too fine of a tip. We're going to go back to this Vallejo brush. It's a synthetic #1. I used it to paint almost everything on these models. There we go. Now when I go to paint the wash on these guys, I'm not going to use the ultra dark strong tone. I'm going to use probably a soft tone. Because personally, I feel the soft tone is dark enough. And it's not so dark that it makes the model look black. You know, I don't like ruining my paint job by applying a wash that's too dark. If that makes sense. Okay, this should go pretty quickly. I don't have enough paint in that lid. I probably should be going for this. Yeah, when I was doing the inside of the shields, I came ac- Did I not even fix these shields? Oh my gosh. When I was doing the insides of the shields, I saw that there was a couple of hands that I didn't touch on the inside of the shield. And I was like, oh goodness. And then I thought to myself, I don't care. Nobody's going to see that. So all you see is like the knuckles. But like I said, when I go back and I do my touch-ups, I'll probably fix that. Okay, before we go anywhere, I don't think I touched these shields. Or at least 3 of them. Or only the back side, not the front side. Which I really don't need to worry about the front side so much because, like I said, I'm going to be painting all these shields. Do a little switcheroo here. There we go. Now some of these spears are not exactly straight, so I'm just going to straighten them up now before I apply the paint to them. Luckily this is an acrylic, so this paint is going to be flexible. Um, yeah, I thought about working on a camp, but I decided against it. I do have some Roman camp followers. I've got some women carrying baskets and stuff like this that are part of the Old Glory Roman camp set. Um, I built a Roman camp many years ago for Field of Glory, and I still have a lot of the parts and pieces that were part of that set that I didn't use. All my Field of Glory armies are long gone. I think I might have sold them a long time ago. Looking back on it, um, I don't regret it, but yeah, I don't regret it because I got paid for it. You know what I mean? But I wonder, nostalgia wise, I wonder what the paint jobs looked like because I painted them like shit. Um, 15 years ago. It was a long time. I don't know if it was 15 years, but it felt like it was an eternity ago. Wow, this is a time-consuming process. Because it's one of the last colors, I'm trying to avoid making mistakes and painting over something that I've already painted. Also, last night when I was doing their hair, I discovered a great color for hair. And I'm going to be using it from now on. Because as you know, I like to experiment and stuff. Uh, I've been using a color very similar to Monster Brown. It's kind of a brown, obviously. But last night, I said, you know what? I'm going to use this Rot Brown, which is like a German red brown. It's rot. Rot meaning, red. It's a German red brown, but it it came out. It looks really good on their heads. It doesn't look dark brown, and it gives it kind of a little bit of just a very little bit of a red tint to it. And they did all their beards and stuff, and it looks really good. I just have to say, it looks really good. Okay, is that a sword? That's a sword. Is that an axe? That is an axe. He's got a sword and an axe. Well, the axe is getting a wood shaft, whether it likes it or not. Oh, a couple of pieces of news, which I was going to put out at my my store news video. But one of them is, I already mentioned this the last time, at the very last few minutes of the last video, is that Victrix now is a minimum order. But like immediately after I put that video out, or I made that statement on my video, closed the video, had lunch, all that stuff, checked my email. Victrix sent me another email saying they are going to go medieval. Because right now they are Napoleonic and ancient. And Dark Age. I think they've got some Dark Age stuff, like Vikings and stuff. But now they're going to go medieval. They were showing off a sculpt of one of their knight models. And it looked like Saracens, maybe? And it looked like the 12th or 13th century. So that's cool. 28 millimeter knights. One of the advantages of that is if you're a role player, you're going to have like a large selection of knights. Plus, if you play games like Sword Point or Hail Caesar or whatever, you're going to have knights. Or what's that other game called? Deuce Volt or any medieval miniature games. Actually, Meg works in medieval as well. And you can play in 28 millimeter if you so desire. Now, a lot of these guys are carrying swords, so I can just zip past them. But the guys carrying their spears, I cannot. Obviously. So they are going medieval, which is going to be really cool. And I'll be able to put a minimum order in for those when they come out. That's going to be cool. So I got a lot of positive coming out of Victrix right now. And then on top of that, okay, I'm about to go medieval on you guys. I'm about to vent a little bit, not on you because you guys are perfect in every way. Don't worry about that. But I'm gonna vent, and you guys are gonna have to listen, and I apologize for that. But some people like to hear me complain. Plastic Soldier Company. Nope, wrong company. What am I talking about? Sorry, didn't mean that. Plastic Soldier, you're doing just fine. Wargames Atlantic. I just got my Wargames Atlantic order in over there. That's going to be part of the store news. What's in the box, right? Okay, but Wargames Atlantic. Nothing wrong. Just this is not on their part. They did a good thing. They put a forum post out, and then they emailed this forum post to everybody. It's a survey. If you haven't responded to this survey, or if you're not part of the know and you didn't get this survey, go to their site and find this survey and put your vote in. But before you do that, listen to what I have to say. and then go run over there and put your vote in. Because I would really like to see some things that this survey is asking for. And I assume they're going to look at the survey and see what kind of interest they have. Okay, so they're planning on adopting a new scale, right? They already have 28 millimeter everything, right? Everything they do is 28 millimeter. Sci-Fi, fantasy, Napoleonic, ancients. All of that they're doing now. Conquistador, World War II, all of that is in 28 millimeter. And they are said they want to go to another scale, a smaller scale. And they want to see what the interest is like for different scales. Any suggestions, like what scale would be a good scale to go to. And there are people, and remember, this is all going to be hard plastic. There are people that have responded in the most idiotic way. And I don't mean to insult anybody. It's just my opinion. But I'm going to share it with you so you can understand where I'm coming from and my thought process. As part of the survey, or I should say as part of the responses, and it's kind of implied in the survey question, it's kind of implied that they want to diversify and make money. Of course. I mean, you don't really have to say that. Right? That's a given. And if it's not a given, then what are you doing? Right? That's what I'm saying. All sorts. Okay, good. Okay, so there are people that I think are stupid. Oh, did I say that out loud? No, I think they're retarded. Is that not politically correct to say? Well, that's too bad because I feel it's true. They get on there and they say, I'd really like to see you go to 1/72 or 20 millimeter. Another guy says, I would really like to see you go to 10 millimeter. Another guy says, I'd really like to see you go to 3 millimeter. I'd really like to see you go to 6 millimeter. Now, as part of the survey, it does say 6, 10, 12, 13.5, which is the warlord scale, 15, 20 millimeter, right? I think they even have maybe something else in there. There's probably a couple others. Okay. So these guys that replied that said there are people that replied with some scales, okay? And I'm going to try to break it down. Why I think their responses are not well thought out. Let's start with 1/72. 1/72 is a great scale. Okay? I like the scale, and I understand why they might reply, yeah, 1/72. That's the obvious choice. It's not. And this is why. Let's check out the market share. Remember, they're trying to make money. What are you building? What are you producing in 1/72 that has not already been produced before? Napoleonics? Nope. They're out there. That's in 1/72. Ancients? Nope. That's already in 1/72. World War II? Nope. That's already in 1/72. Um, Sci-Fi? Okay, yeah, maybe. You could probably get some Sci-Fi 1/72. That would be a unique set. Fantasy? Yeah, that might help too. But let's look. People buying 1/72 are not playing sci-fi or fantasy games. There's no real sci-fi or fantasy game that caters to 1/72. So what you would be doing is, if they decide to do 1/72, World War II, Ancients, Napoleonics, they would be shooting themselves in the foot. Nobody would buy it. Well, some fanboys would buy it, but it wouldn't, as part of the market share, they wouldn't make any money. Okay. So that's me saying that 1/72 is not the right choice. The market is already flooded with plastic 1/72 everything. All right. There are some people that said 12 millimeter. Okay, for the 3 people that buy 12 millimeter models, that would be your customer base. Don't do it. One guy said that 10 millimeter is, he said, the way he worded it, I think he works in media, because he said it's the perfect scale between being small but still having detail. And I was like, you are retarded. 10 is for people that want small and no detail. Because I had some 10 millimeter Napoleonics and I hated them. I'm going to tell you straight up. I thought they sucked hind tit. A lot of people don't know what a hind is, but that's okay. It's not behind like the backside tit. It's a hind. The mythical deer in Russia. Suck hind tit. Okay, sorry. That's probably an old saying that this up and comers, they don't know what it is. Millennials, they probably never heard of it. That was a military saying that I had back in the 80s when we were sucking hind tit. Like, struggling to do what we needed to do because we were all like winded and blown. We're like, oh my god, I'm second hind tit. Okay. Sorry, little history lesson. Moving on. Okay, so don't go into these scales that nobody's gonna buy. Like, who wants a Roman army in 3 millimeter? There's probably a handful of people that do. Yeah, yeah. There's some guys. But if you're gonna invest in making all these molds and artists to sculpt all these different models, you want to make some money, and you're not going to do it in 3 millimeter. You're not going to do it in 10 millimeter or 1/72nd or 12 millimeter, which is actually a model railroading scale, 144 scale, which is N scale? I think it's N scale. Nobody wants a well, 12 might be okay, but again, it's not a large enough market share. The models will probably look good, but that's not the point. The point isn't to look good, even though you got to look good or you're not going to sell. That's right. But the point is to sell. And I don't think these guys get it. That's where I'm saying they're retarded. They're not coming at it from a business point of view. They're coming at it from their personal collection. Okay. So now let's talk about 15 millimeter. By the way, I voted for 15 millimeter. Full disclosure. You can vote for multiple scales, they said. I'm not going to do that. Because I didn't see any other scale that I wanted plastic models for. Okay, so let's do this. What size of the market share do people play 15 millimeter? Hello, it's huge, right? It's the second most popular scale behind 28 millimeter. 15s. Not 1/72nd. Okay. So if, hypothetically, if 1/72nd and 15s were equal in the market share, why would it be better to do 15 millimeter? Well, let me say, without too much ado, plastic. There is a company out there doing plastic World War II. There's actually two of them. You got Plastic Soldier Company and Battlefront doing their Flames of War models. Okay, so you're probably not going to break into that market very well. So that is a con. But let's talk about the other genres. Ancients. Plastic Soldier Company. They've got some ultra cast ancients. They're not plastic. Well, they are. They're kind of a soft plastic. But they're not hard plastic. Like Wargames Atlantic is thinking. There are no other companies doing ancient hard plastics in 15 millimeter. None. If they had a hard plastic 15 millimeter Roman army or Roman models, I would be getting them. I would be jumping up and down to get them. Okay, that's ancients. How about Napoleonics? Does anybody know of a company making 15 millimeter plastic Napoleonics? No. They would be the only ones. Again, they would have 100% of the market share. It's more popular than 20 millimeter, and 20 millimeter is already flooded. That's 1/72, by the way, with other options. All right, let's talk another scale or another genre. American War of Independence. Nope, nobody else doing plastics in 15 millimeter. Can you get them in 1/72? Yes. Is it flooded? Yes. IMEX and Airfix and all these other companies. Hat. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying the quality is better, because Hat doesn't have the greatest in quality, but they do have a large selection. They've got a good variety, and the quality is not bad. It's just in hard plastic you can get better. And that might be where these guys are voting. They're saying, Hat's good, but I'd really love to have some hard plastic. So I get that vote, but I still think it's a wasted vote. Sci-Fi. There's not a lot of guys. There used to be, but there's not anymore. Anybody doing sci-fi in 15s. So you'd have 100% of that market share. 15 in plastic is just remarkably profitable, I would think, to the point that I want to point something out. If you go back one or two of my store updates, or maybe it was my Napoleonic update, or maybe it was my Ancients update or something. I think it was a Napoleonic update. I made a comment that I'm writing my own rules. You guys already know that. You know I'm writing my own rules, marshals and generals. I've kind of put that on the back burner right now. I'm letting some rules kind of gestate in my head to make sure I'm doing it right. But I'm writing these rules for 15 millimeter. You can play at any scale, but my focus was going to be 15 millimeter. And I thought to myself, if I had the money, and if I knew how to do it, because I don't know how to do this, I could research it, I could figure it out, I could do it. I said, if there was a company out there like Flames of Wars, World War II, if there was a company out there that had a rule set uh, like marshals and generals, just using my own rules as an example. And then there was a miniature line in 15 millimeter plastic that had the same name on the box, like the 106, or basically, let's just say a French line infantry regiment for marshals and generals with bases, everything you need, drummers and a flag, maybe even, and well, maybe not a flag. Mainly because there's so many line regiments, they wouldn't want to flood the flags, so sell flags separately. Let's say 15 millimeter flags, Napoleonic flags for marshals and generals, French line infantry, regiment 106 or whatever, right? And then so you already right there have flag sales. You can sell bases separately, and you can include bases with your regiment box sets. You could sell them in divisions, right? You could say the 9th Division with Foy as your general or whatever, and maybe also sell paint sets for marshals and generals. So my point is, if I was smart enough, I would do that. I'd box these plastic. Oh, yeah, I was also mentioning if there was plastic 15 millimeters. Not metals, because the metal market is pretty much flooded already. But the metals would obviously be compatible because they're the same scale. So if you already have a metal army, you could just rebase them. Or not, depending on how you did your basing and how marshals and generals does its basing, etc. And I would, you could really market units and terrain and accessories and all that stuff. But you would need the 15 millimeter plastics. This is what I was saying a few weeks ago. And I said, with 15 millimeter plastics, if nobody else is doing it, and we're licensing from these other companies, we would have to create our own. So I'd have to get a artist to sculpt. Then we'd have to get a company that does casting. All that stuff. And then lo and behold, a couple of weeks later, I get this survey that says what scale. It's obvious. It's 15 millimeter. Damn it. I can't believe that people were saying 1/72. But then again, they're not doing just Napoleonics. But yeah, Ancients, American War of Independence. Anything with mass movement, you know, 15 millimeters, way to go. World War II is pretty much already done in 15 millimeter. So if I was the company and if I chose 15 millimeter, I would not choose World War II. Now, being a realist, and this is me being a pessimist and a realist, it doesn't really matter which one they choose because I will be dead and gone before their first model ever hits the shelf. Wargames Atlantic is the slowest at putting out new models. Not only are they the slowest, but even when they're finished and on order, it takes a year before their warehouse gets the model in stock. They've got to get that fixed before they need to worry about a new scale. Unless the scale has something to do with them not being able to get their models in. Which might be correct. They might have contracted a company to, because I don't think they do it in-house. Because they have to wait for it to be shipped from the factory to the warehouse. Some of you out there might know that I used to be really big into airsoft. Really big. I would go to tournaments. I'd go to not tournaments per se, but big events like big battles or weekend long events, overnight events. I would actually travel out of state, go to these big events, and in the process of doing all that, I'm gonna clean my brush and shake my bottle. But while I was doing that, I had an actual website, screamingeagleairsoft.com. And I would sell airsoft supplies, guns, BBs, holsters, slings, all that stuff, right? And I pretty much had everything. I had a pretty good sized website, and it was hard to maintain because, I had a one-man show here. I was putting all the information on the website myself. I was boxing up the product. I was shipping it out, blah, blah, blah. It was not through eBay. This is my own website that I had. I actually got it through GoDaddy. Where was I going with this? Hold on, I lost my train of thought. We were talking about airsoft, but why? Um, um, Something about not having the wherewithal or the know-how or something, probably. Um, Yeah, because I was saying I wasn't smart enough to make my. Oh. Yeah, now I remember what I was going at with this. Okay, I sold BBs, right? Airsoft BBs, and I sold millions of them. I mean, I would buy them from a wholesaler, and then I would sell them like they were candy, like these people were eating them. Well, they are because they're putting them in their magazines, they're firing them, and it's like that never-ending cycle. You're always going to have to buy more BBs, but they're not expensive. You can get a bag of like 5,000 for like $5 or something like that. And I thought, why don't I make my own BBs? I mean, I don't have the machinery tools, or I don't have the factory. So let me look around the world to see if I can find anybody that'll make me some BBs. And I said I wanted it to be top quality. I wanted to be known for having the best BBs, or at least really good, long-lasting, hard-hitting BBs. So I reached out to a number of different companies that made airsoft BBs. And I was thinking to myself, I just need a bulk order and then I'll bag them up and send them out or whatever, or however I'd want to do it. Well, this one company said they make BBs, right? And because I Google everybody and all that stuff. But their BBs are actually plastic ball bearings. Same weight, same characteristics that I'm asking for, but they're not, they don't make these for airsoft guns. They make them as ball bearings for, it's weird, like a plastic ball bearing. They said they're very durable. They have the same weight characteristic. They have no seams. They're perfectly round, and it has to be. You can't have any burrs or mold lines or anything like that. If you do, it'll get jammed in a gun. So, or it wouldn't be considered top quality. Because there's a lot of low quality, like 0.12 gram BBs that are cheap, literally cheap. So I didn't want those. I was wanting 20 or 25s, maybe 30s. I wasn't sure, but they were like, yeah, we can definitely sell you, and we can send them to you in bags of like 10,000 at a time or whatever, right? And they said we can even bag them up into smaller bags, and we can put your label on it for you. Basically, do everything for me. I would just get this big box of BBs, and then I would sell them, and they would have my name on them, my little logo and phone number or website address or whatever on the label, whatever I wanted to create. And I was like, wow, this is perfect. This is exactly what I need. Price was right. I was like, okay, this is good. It would be a big investment up front, because like 10,000 BBs or whatever is not cheap. So I was like, okay, let's do this. Let me put an order in for this, this, and this. And they're like, okay, send us your label, and then we'll print it and put it on the bags and all that, and seal the bags, Ziploc bags or whatever but they'd be sealable or you know heat shrunk or whatever it was. I don't remember the exact details. And I was like, okay, we're getting started. My company's growing. I'm doing the thing. And then the hammer fell. All right, before we can send you this order, we need your bank information, which, of course, they got to get paid. And I was like, can I not just give you a credit card? Nope. Can I not just wire you the money? Nope. Do you accept PayPal? Nope. We need your bank information. And I was like, okay, we're done. Sorry. You have a good day. And they said, well, that's the way it's always been done. This is the way, this is the way it's done. And I just want to let you know this was maybe 10, 15 years ago, 10 years ago. And this was a Chinese company. And I was already on high alert. For bank account or bank fraud or anything like that, because I had my bank accounts hacked into and stolen and stuff like that, um, and had to get that all squared away and fixed and everything. But I'm sure they could have been probably legit. I was just afraid, and I said, "Nope, we're not going to do it. I'm afraid." And that was 15 years ago. If it was today, I'd be like, hell no. I don't know if you know, but a lot of airsoft guns, a lot of them, come from China. There's a lot of brands out there. They're either Japanese or Chinese. Or Korean. I don't know why all the airsoft guns come from that area of the world, but they do. I'd say that 90% of them come from that area. I still have, I don't know if I've got it within sight, but yeah, yeah, it's hidden behind the boxes over there. I've got quite a few airsoft guns still remaining in my possession. I've got a few bags of BBs and I got some batteries. If I needed to or wanted to, I could grab my stuff and go to an airsoft field and play. I still got my goggles and everything. I just haven't had the desire to go do that. It was fun. It put my military training to good use. It was kind of a way to relieve a little bit of stress, tension. I used to do that through the SCA, which is a medieval fighting organization. But it started to become too political for me. Um, it started to become a he said, she said kind of thing, and I stopped attending. And that's why I got into airsoft, actually. I was in the SCA for 20 plus years. And then when I got out of the SCA, when I decided I wasn't going to do that anymore, I said, okay, I need something else that's going to satisfy my competitive, physical, um, desire or whatever, need for some physical competition. And airsoft became that because I was running around in the woods. All right, guys. Well, it's been a couple hours. We're going to call the video right here. I'm going to stop the stream. I'm going to finish the wood off camera. And then I'm going to start videoing some of these other videos that I need to do. I'm going to do it while I've got the house to myself. So it should be pretty quiet. But that was the plan. So I will see you. Stay tuned. Either Monday or tomorrow you should see a store update. You should also see the new Meg video uploaded within the next couple of days. And maybe an Ancients update, if I get these finished. Should be coming up real soon. And, excuse me. And thanks for coming out and checking this out. Be sure to like and subscribe to the video. And if you're interested in purchasing miniatures like these or any others, hit my eBay store. And if you are interested in a commission, contact me and I'd be glad to let you know what's needed.